Hi, it's Bob the Hippie Gardener, and I want to take you on a tour of my garden, so come on in. Don't mind the weeds, we're a little behind on weeds, but anyway, around the side of my garden what we have is we have some blueberries, and then we have some miniature apple trees, which are really looking pretty good, as you can see. And then we got our pepper plants in buckets, as you can see. And then we have some garlic here, along with some tomatillas and a couple of tomato plants growing up a string here. And we'll talk a little bit more about tomato plants in a minute here. And we got some broccoli that we've harvested the heads from, but we're getting a lot of these side shoots. And we got some tomatoes here that are in cages. More apple trees. All around the edge of the garden we have apple trees. We have some eggplants over here growing. Some ping tung long eggplants. Or Chinese string eggplants, I mean. And these are sweet potatoes. And they're kind of taking over and they're starting to flower. And then across the back of my garden all the way down, of course we have apple trees and a cherry tree. So we try to keep on the outside of the garden for our food forest. We're growing the trees on the outside so it doesn't really affect the sunlight on the inside. And we got some beans growing up a trellis here. It's a nice little trellis made with just rope. And we got some lettuce hiding down here, starting to stay cool. And several different varieties of beans here. And they're just starting to get baby beans on these ones. This variety here is called Black Valentine. Happens to be one of Marcia's favorites. Got a little bit different texture and taste, and that tastes like beans. That's the bean taste right there. Very good. And we have some onions planted here. And actually these are called Unzen flat onions. And they just form those bulbs like that. We have two different kinds of parsley here. We have more onions along with carrots in between. And then over here we have our tomatilla plants. These are regular tomatillas here, as you would normally see in the store. If I can find a ripe one, I'll show you. They're not very far along yet, but you can pick one to show. So they're just the normal tomatillas. They're very small right now, but they'll get like, oh, about that big around when they're ripe. And then we have a Queen of Malenko kind, which is a slightly different kind. Different shape. Looks about like that. So those are going to be used to make some great salsa. And we have some potato plants here. And more potato plants over here. At the entrance of our garden we got a Chicago fig tree. And we grew this and took it out in a pot for a couple of years, and then last year we decided we were going to plant it in the ground, see if it survived the winter. Well, it didn't survive the winter, but Chicago figs are made to, like, the top part will die and the root will survive. So that has happened, and we will get some figs from this year. Just usually if you can put them in your garage over the winter, you'll get two crops, one in the spring, one in the fall. But when you let the tops die back like this, you'll only get one crop. Here we have more onions with a lot of flowers around the front, and more parsley. And then some more apple trees. And over here we have some potatoes we're actually growing in cardboard boxes. So we get some extra room, we got some extra potatoes there. We use containers like that a lot. Over here you'll see we got another container that has some other eggplant in it. And these are called, what are those called? They're called patio babies, and they get about that big, but they're really nice. They're ready to harvest. And again, another apple tree here that's just loaded with apples. Miniature apple tree. They don't get very big. And one of our crops of corn, this is early golden bantam. It's got the silks on it. Be some corn in a few weeks. I actually had to hook up my electric fence last night, because usually what happens every year is when you grow corn, you go out there and you look and you think, oh, in a few days I'll have some corn. Look at those kernels in there. And you come out the next day and all your corn's gone because the coons got it. Well, we have an electric fence, and I just took that up last night to keep the coons out. So. And here we got more broccoli and some cauliflower this has actually been harvested. But I let some of these grow because they give me side shoots. Here we got a poblano pepper plant. And if you look over here, this is what I'm talking about with side shoots. So these are like broccoli rabe. They call broccoli rabe. So you can break these off and eat these side shoots too. And I have my later crop of corn just growing here. This is the second crop we put in here. First we had cabbages, now we got some cauliflower in here, and we got some kale. And then we have another whole patch of tomatoes that we're growing up strings. And we'll do another short on that here today later. And they're looking pretty good, actually. More container growing of my peppers. This is hot peppers. You like to keep your hot peppers away from your sweet peppers, because otherwise your sweet peppers will turn hot if they get pollinated by this pepper. That'll turn your sweet peppers hot, so you got to be careful about that. And here we got more, my favorite way of doing this, more onions with carrots in between the middle. And we have some Swiss chard back here, and a bunch of parsley, and some carrots we planted in December. And so somebody said to me the other day, you don't have carrots yet, do you? I go, yeah, I do. And they go, how is that possible? I said, well, I planted them in December. And we've already done a video on that. If you plant stuff in December, it won't come up until the ground gets 55 degrees anyway. So we just plant them and let it come up when it comes up. We got a couple more broccoli plants growing here, and some lettuce we're letting go to seed here, and then we'll get our free seed that way. Here we have some cilantro that we're letting go to seed. And again, we got more carrots. We have a couple different kinds of peas that we're planting this year. We have these sugar snap peas. And these are, if you've never had sugar snap peas, you eat the pod and all. They do have strings in them, at least this variety does. You just take the string off. And, wow, those are good. Here we have our celery plants. I'm going to take a look at these. Some people say they've never grown celery, but you can grow it. It's very temperamental. You got to give it lots of water, definitely. Then we got a couple more broccoli plants that have been harvested, and we're growing it for the side shoots here. And then we have another way to grow tomatoes, which is in cages. You can put them up a string and trellis them, or you can grow them in cages. That's the two ways that I do it. We have a squash growing here. Don't have any squash on it currently. I harvested it already. With some potatoes in the middle and some cucumbers along this trellis in the back. And we have more sugar snaps right here. I'm gonna have another one of those. Those are sweet. So we have our apple trees along the back, growing our second crop of cabbage back here, with some blueberries down here, and more potatoes in a container here. This is a cattle panel that I put up between two of these raised beds so that I can grow the stuff up the top of it. And on this side, I've got a bunch of pole beans growing, coming up. And on this side, we got the cucumbers growing up. Over here we have our asparagus, which we're pretty much done with for the year. And I planted some potatoes next to this asparagus here, so we're gonna have lots of potatoes this year. That's the good news. And at the end of this row, I've got some nor'easter beans growing here. They've already reached the top. And we have a variety of corn called Delectable here from Territorial Seed. It takes about 85 days. And we got some beans climbing up the top of that. Over here we have some peas. These are actually shelling peas. These are called green arrow peas. And there's something else, man. Because you get a lot of peas in one of these pods if you look at this. You don't eat the pods on these, but man, oh man, are the peas sweet. Green arrow peas. We've got some Alcosa cabbage, which is a crinkly cabbage kind of there. We have a couple different kinds of leeks here. And then we have some more of these sugar snaps. These are the kind that don't really climb, that I just put some sticks in the ground for a trellis. And some of these sugar snaps like this don't have a string in them at all. You try to string them, there's none. But man, they're sweet. This is a variety of Swiss chard called Perpetual Spinach, because it keeps giving you leaves that look like spinach and taste a little bit like it too. And here's our crop of early golden bantam corn. It's June 12th, and we're not too far from getting some corn here. As you can see, the ears are getting pollinated. And then we got some lettuce going to seed here, some more cilantro going to seed, and that's how we save seed. We've got some beets here, two different kinds, red beets and white beets. And that's pretty much the tour of the garden. So what we're going to do now is we're going to harvest some of this to show you really what we get from it. So let's go down here and grab some harvesting tools and harvest some stuff. We picked a hot one today. So we're going to come in here and start by getting us some onions. We'll pick a couple of these onions and flats. When the tops start falling over, they're getting done. That means that they're done and they're really not using the tops anymore. So I'm just going to harvest a couple of these. They're not that big, but they're really good. Then I'm going to come over here and get some of these eggplants that we showed a little bit earlier. These are called patio babies, as I said. And they're nice. Good to fry up. A little bit of bacon grease and you're there. Oh, and we got to have some of these broccoli shoots here that are coming off. As you can see, I just take these and break them off. like that. And we'll get some more from the broccoli plants on the other side over there. We're going to harvest us a little bit of parsley. Yeah. And we're going to grab a couple carrots over here. These are called corral carrots, and they're looking pretty good actually. So I cut the tops off of those. And I like to do like I call a chop and drop kind of thing, whereas I like to put some of the trimmings back in the garden just right where we harvested it, and let them decompose and put some nutrients back in the soil. So you got some carrots, nice size. We're going to get some more of these broccoli ribs from here, from this little side shoots of this plant. These are great steamed with a little bit of cheddar cheese on them. And we'll come over here and get us a cucumber. Let's see here. Yeah, you think we got one? We got one of those. And of course we need some green beans over here. And these are called contenders. They're very early and they grow profusely. And there's a bunch of them in there. We like to grow a bunch of different kinds of beans, and then they mature at different rates, and that way we have a steady supply of beans throughout the season. And then when these bush beans kind of finish their productivity stage, the pole beans just are starting to kick in, so then you have continuous beans until frost. And that's a little handful of beans there we can use. And of course we have to harvest some of these sugar snaps. Now, you can harvest these early for snow peas if you want. So if you harvest them really young like that, you can use them in stir fries as snow peas. But if you let them fill out like this and get meaty, then you can harvest them as sugar snaps. And look for the mature ones. Oh yeah. They like to hide there in the middle, especially those ripe ones. What you need to do is keep picking these though, and then they'll produce a little bit more. Peas produce their seeds and then they're done, but you do get a bigger harvest if you keep them picked. And we'll grab a few more off of these. These are really ready to go. And that ought to make a good batch for supper. We've got some kale right here that we can harvest, a couple different kinds here. So we'll take some of that too. Got to have a big bucket to put all this stuff in, that's for sure. And we're going to take this Alcosa cabbage, it's ready. They're not big heads, but they're really good. And use the chop and drop again, just put these right back, right there. And you end up with a pretty nice head of cabbage there. Just like that. And then we'll harvest a few of these green peas too. Shelling peas that we tried before. These peas went in early March, and that's really when you want to get your peas in before, you know, in March if you can. If you don't get them in by April sometime, you won't get this kind of harvest. But if you get them in early, this is what you get. A bunch of these. And we'll get us some Swiss chard over here. Oh, first we'll get us a celery plant. I'm gonna pick a good one here. So there you go, that's your homegrown celery. That's some good stuff right there. Yeah. Then we're going to harvest a few of these white beets. These are Detroit white beets. And they're real sweet. They look good. I'll set those right there for a second. One more thing we're going to harvest, and that's going to be some of this Swiss chard down here. And this is a rainbow Swiss chard, so it's got a bunch of different colors. In Swiss chard, you can eat both the stems and the green parts. The green parts kind of taste like spinach, and the stems you can use in soups and stuff, kind of like celery. Tastes great. And so that's really today's garden tour and harvest. And you can see that the early gardening works. It's June 12th and we're eating a lot of stuff out of the garden. So happy gardening. You guys be sure to like and subscribe, okay?